Thank you.
Really deserve that.
It is 6:30, so we are going to call this meeting to order, and we'd like to welcome everyone and ask you to please stand for a moment of silence and the pledge. And now the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing is adoption of the agenda.
Move to adopt the
Motion by Mr. Peardo,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Talby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Public comments. We have several, so if you all could, we'd like to keep it to around 5 minutes. So we'll start with Miss Allison Fuller.
Hello. My name's Allison. This is my son, Anthony. He's 13. He is actually standing in for my 14-year-old who refused to give up football practice to be here. So I'm a mother of 4 children in the Clark County Public Schools. First, I want to thank you for allowing me to share my experience with virtual learning. Tonight, I'm here to speak in favor of getting my children back into schools. I have 2 boys at RDC, aged 13 and 14. One at Strode that is 8, a 4, and almost 3-year-old in the public preschool. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of my 14-year-old son. Sorry.
Take your time.
Hunter has severe ADHD and has struggled in school since he started at Henry McClure. He currently and has always had an IEP. Virtual learning has been a nightmare for my son. Thank you. Trying to find all the assignments located in different places, using unfamiliar apps, lagging Chromebooks, learning how to navigate through submitting assignments differently for each teacher in class, and the workload of a minimum of 22 assignments a week. Hunter currently plays football for the 8th grade team at RDC. Last Thursday on 8th grade night, grades and eligibility were ran for the first time since virtual learning started, and there were 35 ineligible football players. Let me qualify that by saying the football coaches, parent volunteers, and even administration running grades tried their best to help these kids to be able to play. 35 ineligible players should speak volumes as to what virtual learning is doing to these children. Some of those 35 are normal honor roll students. This could have been their last game. They were told upon arriving they would not be on the field. I advocate strongly for my son, as it is my job to protect and make sure he is getting everything in my power that he requires through his federally funded IEP. I spoke with the athletic director, then the assistant principal. I explained that I felt his IEP requirements were not being met, and to make him ineligible to play was more than unfair because the requirements put forth in the IEP weren't being met. Hunter loves his coaches and strives to please them every day. That night, he played his best game ever. My son needs his teachers. He needs help. I, as a full-time working mom, can't give him all the help he needs. Sitting in our kitchen every night deciding which one of my children need my help the most is taking a huge mental toll on myself and my kids. These kids need to return to school. I am not putting my children at risk by asking you to send them back. I am making sure I do not fail my child in the future when it comes time for them to live on their own, go to college, and build a family life. I need the teachers as much as them. Please don't fail my kids any more than we already have. This virtual learning is not working. It is not at all successful in hordes of homes throughout the district. I urge you to find a way to send our kids back to school and still protect the students and teachers who are part of the population that are vulnerable to COVID-19. Not being in school is devastating to many children in the county. Suicide rates and opiate abuse are on the rise, as is crime, while child abuse and neglect reporting sharply declined without teachers and school staff regularly interacting with students. Not everyone is safe at home. Many are not healthy at home when you consider the mental health side of the equation. Our kids and my kids need to be in school. Thank you.
Thank you. Cameron Hall.
Hello, my name is Cameron Hall, and I'm the teacher at the preschool. I've taught in Clark County for 15 years, and I've seen the preschool grow and change. Today, I would like to tell the board how it is time to build a new preschool now. When I first started teaching, the preschool program was housed in trailers at each of the elementary schools. After 2 years in the trailers, we moved to an old factory that was remodeled to accommodate the preschool in a single location. We were so excited to be under the same roof, but the building had a lot of issues. Only 4 of the classrooms in that building had windows. The others were in the interior of the building, and there was no fresh air or natural light. It was basically a dungeon. The preschool was also not the only business housed in that building, and it was as secure as we could make it be at that time. The district then moved preschool into its current location at Hannah McClure. We were told that this would be a temporary home until we had a new building. 4 years ago, the planning committee looked at the building of a new preschool, and we went up against the athletic complex. We're asking that you now consider making good on the promise of a new state-of-the-art preschool building that we have been patiently waiting for. The Hannah McClure building was built in the 1950s. It is not made for preschool-age children. There are 7 classrooms that have to share 2 bathrooms with a combined 7 stalls. These classrooms have to interrupt their classroom instruction to take time to go to the bathroom. Have you ever tried to potty train a child? When they have to go, they have to go. And trying to work that time into the day is very tricky. And now, in times of COVID, these classes have to have scheduled bathroom times because they can't have children interacting, and we have to sanitize between each classroom use. And then can we talk about the ramps at Hannah McClure? There are 2 steep ramps in the hallway that lead to the upper and lower hallways. We're asking children to walk in line and traverse these steep hills to get to and from their classrooms. It's very difficult to keep these kids in line and not running up and down the ramps. We also have children that come to school in wheelchairs or have walkers that it's very difficult to help them maneuver through these hallways. Preschool does not have central air. We just got new air conditioners that we really appreciate, but there's no fresh air circulating in our building. In the winter, the school is heated with a boiler system, and the classrooms are either too warm or too cold. There's no happy medium in these buildings. We have a large playground that we have worked really hard to make fun and exciting for our children. The problem is we have to cross a parking lot that has a blind corner that people have to pull around to get to our parking lot. The parking lot is in the back of the school, and the cars come flying around. It is not safe to walk these children across the road to the playground. At other schools, children walk directly out from the school onto the playground. We're asking the youngest children in the county to walk across the road to get to a playground. We also have outgrown the current building that we are in. We have 2 trailers that house 3 additional classrooms. We are busting at the seams. The program is growing and evolving, and we need room to grow. Preschool has been overlooked so that other schools can have the things that they need. It is time for Clark County to support the preschool and build the school that we can be proud of. The program is amazing. We work hard for the most vulnerable children in Clark County. We are a 5-star program that deserves a 5-star building to better meet the needs of all the kids in Clark County. We are the first experience families have in school, and we want to continue making the children in Clark County kindergarten ready. Thank you for your time and consideration to put preschool as a number one priority.
You gotta wipe it off, otherwise it starts brewing. Sorry. I've been telling him that for 3 months to wipe it off.
Sarah Howard.
He said it rained.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Sarah Howard, and I am a Clark County preschool parent, and I'm here to talk to you all about the need for this new preschool. My daughter was born a premature child, like many that we have, and she, because of that, has been delayed in many areas, speech being the main one. Whenever she started with the First Steps program, we knew that this date was looming that she had to come out at 3 years old. We didn't know what we were going to do. We could not afford private pay preschool or private pay speech therapy, and we were struggling to pay for private preschool. So at the end of it, we had this meeting that says you qualify to go to preschool. Well, we were shocked. We were so thrilled to have this opportunity, and she entered into the school and started with Ms. Kelly, our speech therapist, and she couldn't tie 2 words together. Now I can't get her to hush. She kind of drives me crazy. She's on her 3rd year in the preschool, and we have thoroughly loved everybody there. When Ella was, she was diagnosed last year with an autoimmune disease. And wound up on chemo. Sorry. They made accommodations for her, and her teacher was the only person outside of the family who came to visit her in the hospital. And she's become part of our own family. Sorry. Okay. If not for the preschool, Ella would be starting kindergarten next year. She's a very high-strung child. She would be having major anxiety. She would be very far behind. And I would potentially be in meetings pushing for her to be medicated because I know my child. But because of this, she's been given a step ahead and able to enter into kindergarten next year, ready to go. She started her first day back today. She was up at 8 o'clock, even though school came in at 11. Dressed with her dress on backwards, ready to go. She was so excited and was so upset that she couldn't go to school immediately. The preschool currently does have 7 classrooms with no bathrooms, and they're sharing 7 stalls with basically 250 children. I potty train my own children. It's awful. You have to sit there for 30 minutes sometimes trying to get them to pee on the potty. And these teachers take their time to really work with these kids that come to school and not potty trained. The school really needs individual bathrooms for each classroom. The ventilation is awful in Hannah McClure. There's no fresh air circulating at all, and this year of all years, we really need fresh air circulating in our classrooms. And I don't know if any of you have walked through the halls of Hannah McClure, but like Cameron said, the ramps are awful. I have walked up and down those ramps, and for a grown adult like me, it is difficult. We're asking our most vulnerable and youngest population to walk up and down these ramps, and the teachers do a wonderful job at adapting. They have wagons, they have other things to get them up and down, but they shouldn't have to do that. They should be given the best environment to succeed. The new high school complex cost over $100 million, and it was definitely needed, but so is the preschool, and I would beg of you to put the preschool and Phoenix Academy at the top of your list. Take a fraction of that money and build a better quality environment so these teachers can expand the program and allow these children to have a wonderful environment to succeed in and get them the head start that they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Becky Kissick.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Gonna hand these out if you don't mind. Becky Kissick, Public Health Director here in Clark County. When I was here in August, I made the commitment that I would continue to provide monthly updates for where we are in the county when we start thinking about COVID. What you will see in front of you is the most updated information that we have available. This is as of 4:30 today. And this is something that at each juncture, the Reentry Task Force is examining and reviewing. You will see on there that as of today, we are now at 498 cases with 50 active, but the number that we love to report is that 438 recoveries. In addition to that, however, you will see below that, broken down, is the monthly trend data. For the first 12 days in the month of October, we have confirmed 50 cases, and that is putting us on track to be ahead of where we were last month, of course. If you flip that sheet over, you're going to see our weekly trends. You can see that last week was a very big week for us, not our biggest, but coming in close at 36 confirmed cases. We are definitely on an upward trend, and we hope that we see that change or pivot back down. You'll see the cases are broken down by age distribution as well. One of the things I want to draw your attention to is that there are actually 495 ages reported here. But you just heard me say we had 498 cases. Part of that is in the spirit of full transparency, we are taking kind of a hard look at every piece of data we have available. On Thursday, we brought in a member of our regional state team, and they're going through each and every bit of data that we have available. There were 3 labs of the 498 that had a slightly different birth date that we are working to confirm the age information on. It is very important to us that the information that we share out as a health department is the most accurate data that we have available and that we stand by that data. In addition to that, you will see there broken down our pediatric ages, that kind of 0 to 18 population to give you a sense of our school-age children, a racial distribution, and on the back is the state map. This state map is a map that Mr. Talby and I have talked long and hard about. This state map is a great resource for what I will call as an at-a-glance reference. You will see that there on the bottom of that, the state has added the caveats of how that information is being calculated. But what I will assure you is that this information will never specifically match the information coming out of the local health department. And I say that because we are reporting that information in real time. We are not waiting for it to be uploaded into that NEDS database and accepted. We are reporting it as we work them and as we confirm those cases. This is one of the pieces that I think the Reentry Task Force has truly gotten right, because what they have said is that this is a great metric, it's a great at-a-glance and a great reference, but it needs to be paired with the local information. We talked a lot the last time about pairing that information with kind of a description of where our cases come from. Right now, we are seeing community spread. In May, that was a little bit different. In May, you heard me talking a whole lot about long-term care and a long-term care outbreak. So understanding the local trends, understanding that local data, paired with an at-a-glance is truly what's important. The Reentry Task Force has been a wonderful collaborative effort in terms of there's a lot of diverse opinions, a lot of diverse insight, but I think it's made us stronger incorporating all of those pieces. Those metrics paired with this map give us a great path forward for safely bringing students back. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee Perry. Oh, yeah, oh, hang on just a second, sorry.
Don't forget to mic it.
Find himself outside the room.
My name is Renee Perry. I am a first grade teacher at Concord Elementary. I've been a first grade teacher for 17 years, all in this town. I came today to tell you just a little bit about what first grade is like in our building right now. We started bringing in kids about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Today and last week were the first times we've had small groups in. So today I have 5 boys with 5 6-year-olds in masks in school. It's doable, but it's going to take some work. You know, social distancing in the hallway is real fun.
We got the circles, so the circles are a good thing until we start walking. So it's doable, but with 5 boys, I took up 3/4 of the hallway. So if I have a full, if we go back full force, 27 kids, I'm gonna be around the building about twice, social distancing 6 feet. I came today to talk about the hybrid that you guys don't like, but it's, to me, the only thing that's gonna work, especially with the kids that we have in our building. The hybrid being the A being Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday. The other half goes. These are our numbers. I had 27 kids in my class, and I'm the lucky one because I have the biggest room. I have the corner room, the corner office, I got the corner room, it's huge. I'm allowed to have 11 kids with social distancing, 11. I have 27 assigned. I have 17 that want to come back in person. I can do it. I'm the lucky one. I can do 9 and 8. I can get 17 in my room. That's no problem. The girl in the room next to me has, I'm gonna my glasses on, sorry. There's 26 students. 19 of hers want to come back, but she can only fit 8 in her room. That's a big difference between 8 and 11. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot when you're trying to fit that many kids in the classroom. She can't do it. I mean, we want to do it. We all want our kids to come back. We got to figure out a way for this to work. I mean, it's going to be the best way for it to work. Another classroom has 27 kids. 17 of hers want to come back. She can only fit 8. 8 and 8, 16. She can only fit 7. She has 17 that want to come back. So, I mean, there's one more class. Next class has 25, and these are the smaller rooms. Like I said, I'm the lucky one. I get the big room. This is the smallest room. She's got the dungeon with no windows. She's got 25 kids. 13 of hers want to come back. She can only fit 8. She can do it. 8. She can do it. So that's kind of like the dynamic. We want our kids to come back. That a hybrid will make it work better. There's no way we can have all of them come back at once. It's not feasible with the size of our rooms, with trying to keep masks on kids, social distancing in the hallway. I had one hide his mask in his pocket and kind of look the other way the other day when trying to think, hey, she won't see me, so he could get us out, put back on again, because he was working at his desk. We were social distanced out. Like I said, I'm the lucky one. I got the big room. It can be done. I think we've got a plan. We talked about it, what we would do on these days, how we would do our work. We're working our hind ends off, staying late most days, getting the stuff ready for the packets that go out. Our kids are getting all their subjects. They're getting math, science, social studies. I mean, we're staying late. We're giving them science experiments. We can do it. We can do the same thing if need be for the hybrid AB. Some good things that we've seen, it seems like it's all negative, is the small groups are also reaching those kids, like little Johnny in the back who's normally quiet, doesn't say anything. I can get to him. I can see that, my gosh, his handwriting is really bad, or he can't count. One little girl, she didn't recognize that number. She couldn't recognize the number, she couldn't count. The little things like that we're seeing working in the smaller groups, these kids aren't getting missed. The smaller groups are helping in more ways than one. It's helping with the immune, but it's helping them get reached and get the things that they need the most. That's basically all I have to say. It's just basically the hybrid's what's going to work for our kids. It's going to work for our little ones. It's going to make sure that they get the education that they need. The little stuff like, keeping their masks on, social distancing in the hallway. It's a lot easier when you have a smaller group of kids. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Fitzgerald.
She's in the.
What was the name?
Annie Fitzgerald.
Annie.
Annie.
Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald.
I'm here to talk about the preschool. I was asked this morning to just say a few words about what the preschool meant to our family. And I'll be very short, I promise. Sorry, I'm also not good at this. My oldest son had 1 year of preschool with the incomparable Miss Lewis. And as the first mother turning him over to a school, I was really nervous, as I am now. But she made it all right. I was worried he wasn't quite potty trained. I didn't know if he knew the things he needed to know to go to preschool. You know, what had I done? I don't know. I don't know how to teach a kid. She not only taught him, she involved me in his education. And it made me realize that I could help teach my child, that I could be involved in his education. And we became a family, the little preschool class and us. He went off to Stray Station, wonderful school, love it. And my youngest went in to Head Start. He was a little harder, as the second child often is. He had speech issues, he needed PT, and just the availability of the services through preschool and Head Start, just the family-like atmosphere of being there. And this is just a program that needs to be expanded. It needs to have a facility where they can keep doing what they do. I mean, I have been involved. I got to fill in for someone that went on maternity leave, and then again, someone that had some issues, health issues. And so I got to spend about 6 months being in the system and watching how they worked around all of the things in Hannah McClure that you shouldn't have to work around in preschools, right? Mainly the bathrooms. Having a bathroom in the classroom is it just makes sense. Every other preschool has that. That needs to happen, right? Even our kindergartens have that, or at least at Stroke they did. So I'm sorry, I totally got off topic. What I wanted to say was that Head Start preschool not only introduced my children to structure and the routine of the classroom, to the expectations and responsibilities of being a good student, but it taught me how to be engaged in their education. The women that taught my boys showed me how to be a partner with them for my children. And I think every kid in this county deserves that. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
That is the end of public comments, so we are on to item number 2. Discuss and consider approval of the local planning committee 4-year district facility plan. Donald Stump. Oh, there you are. I was about to really yell at you.
I wiped it off.
Payback, I love it. Just a really brief recap. We, some months ago, prior to the pandemic hitting, constructed a district facility planning process because our district facility plan, our 4-year plan, was due to KDE in August, that most recently passed. We constructed a committee consistent with KDE guidelines, consisting of school administrators, board members. Ashley was the chair of that committee. School administrators, parents, teachers, paraeducators, community business owners, community agency leaders,
planning and zoning, pretty good microcosm of your community. We met multiple times, designed the plan that's before you for consideration. We worked with your architect, Ross Tarrant, that you hired to help facilitate the process. Randy's here if you have any questions regarding the plan. We allowed Tim Eaton of KSDA to lead the process, assuring that we followed all guidelines relative to discussions and considerations. He's not available if you're here tonight, but he was at every meeting and facilitated quite respectfully. So, given the respect of all of the members that volunteered their time toward this process, we've also shared this with KDE several times, answered all of their questions, all of their points of data that they requested. Mr. Butchar helped us considerably with that. Finally received their endorsement as a plan that looked like it fit with our district facility intentions for the district. I'd also mention that Ross Tarrant also was the architectural firm that the board hired to facilitate our K-Fix process, which assessed every one of our buildings, quite specifically, every system in every one of our buildings that we included in the state's new database. So Randy and Ross Tarrant are very familiar with every need that we have. It's really difficult to breathe with this mask on, so but with every need of our buildings and our construction, our facilities. So given that, Randy's prepared to talk with you about the plan if you so choose, or he's here to help us answer any specific questions you might have if you'd like to enter into discussions immediately on consideration of passing this plan as presented.
Mr. Stone, can you kind of walk us through the process from approval to breaking ground on construction if we move forward?
As far as the priority number one?
Yes. I mean, just, the approval process from here to the state to timeline to, just kind of walk us through for us, for ourselves, as well as the community.
Tonight, if the board were to approve, the board has the option to approve this plan or send it back to committee for recommendations. Assuming that you were to approve this plan tonight, we would have a public hearing. People from the public would come and be recorded with any statements that they would have relative to the process of this plan. We would then submit that public hearing back to the board again for approval. You'd have to approve the board or the minutes or the report for the hearing next board meeting. If you were to approve that, then it would go to KDE for final approval. Once KDE approved that process, at their point, then you could begin the PG1 process for any of the projects on level 1 that you'd like to consider. Accurately represent that?
Yes, so the Kentucky State Board of Education, the KBE, meets every 2 months. So right now, the schedule that we're on, we could get that on the December agenda. I think that's early in December. I don't remember the specific date. But assuming that we are able to meet that schedule, they would approve it at their meeting, and then that becomes the official DFP, District Facility Plan for the districts, is on file with KDE. So after that point, the board could choose to issue or review and approve a PG1 to initiate a project. Assumedly, one of the priority 1 or both of the priority 1 projects. Or that DFP could sit there for some period of time until the board was ready to review and approve the PG1. But you do have to have the DFP in place and that corresponds to the project that you're wanting to move forward with. KD will check back against the DFP to make sure that any project that you are moving forward with as a board is actually listed on the DFP.
So it sounds like there's not an official commitment to move forward until it's approved by Kentucky State Board and then comes back, and then we would decide.
The earliest that the board decides to move forward with the project is listed on this DFP, the new DFP, would be following the December Kentucky State Board meeting, which I think is December 2nd or the first week in December sometime. But that doesn't mean you have to.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Well, so if I could ask a follow-up question, so the previous district facility plan, is that still valid?
The current district facility plan, even though it was supposed to be reapproved in August or a new one submitted in August, we were on a delay because of the whole pandemic. The the current DFP that you have in Frankfurt on file is your current DFP. So that stands until this new DFP is approved by the state, correct?
So if this process, let's say, got bogged down, we could say, well, we've got the old one that's got the preschool on it as item 2C. We could potentially move forward on that based upon, because it's right in line on the old project.
You can do that.
On the old
I've
plan.
had a district recently move forward with the project that was on the old DFP, because the new DFP was still in process, yes.
So what's the difference between the two? Why wouldn't you just stay with the current plan?
KDE requires you to update your DFP every 4 years.
Okay.
So you go through this process every 4 years with the local planning committee to update your DFP. That's a requirement at the state level. So even though the preschool was on the old DFP, it was a 2C project, which means it wasn't a priority 1 project. So it was in that priority 2 category, which means you could do that now. You could absolutely approve of EG1 right now and move forward with that. But the new DFP actually takes the projects that you have completed off the list, obviously, and the LPC consider all of this. And then they have identified the 2 priority projects that are the priority 1 projects, that the intention is, the way that it's listed, priority 1 projects are intended to move forward within the first biennium, the first 2 years of that 4-year plan.
Also answering your question, we've gone back and forth with the preschool program in particular, from new construction to renovation of McClure, back to new construction. So I think on the most current district facility plan, it's calling for the renovation of McClure Elementary School for preschool. So that would be the huge difference.
The current plan
The current
has
plan.
renovation for Hannah McClure.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. That's a really good point, Alan, that you had forgotten about that.
And thus, we would be limited to a renovation approach.
That would be my
Okay.
understanding, yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
So when it goes to KDE for approval, do they take into consideration our $2 million shortfall and they don't look at that at all?
They look at bonding potential is all they would look at. All there is the capital bonding.
Which I think Ross had cleared today to you at your last meeting.
Yes.
It has to be specifically for construction projects.
Right.
Is the public forum still scheduled for the 14th?
It is.
So,
It's subject to rescheduling, though. I mean, we made that very clear, if necessary.
it seemed to me that probably meant that the superintendent or somebody secured 3 votes before this happened. I'm not sure whether or not.
My understanding is that it meant that the plan was due in August, and we're trying to make the December deadline. That was the intent of that.
Actually, I think Mr. Heisel requested that it stay, and we revisit it tonight, right?
Well, we knew we were going to revisit it tonight. We knew
Right,
that.
but you asked that we keep
Normally,
the,
till a plan is passed, you don't do a full
Well,
vote.
but
I
you
mean,
asked to keep the October 14th.
Yeah, but it was already put in the paper, and that way we
I
can,
don't think it was asked at the meeting.
we can have that all
Official.
Yeah, but there was a
alternate to go either
whole
way.
conversation that went on after that, correct, Brian?
Well, but still wasn't in his form of a motion to keep that on there. And from what I understand, Mr. Christie threw quite a fit afterwards because he put it on there, so I
Well,
wasn't here. But
we checked with legal counsel, both at KDE and at
that's fine, so. I don't have any thoughts against the committee. You know, I love when people get involved and do the things on committee that they should do. And it's always good to have people come in and work on things. My biggest issue with the whole plan is the limitations that it puts on either this board or the next board to discuss the educational future of all the kids here in Clark County. At one of the meetings that I was at, somebody asked about, what is the vision of this district? And I kept listening, came back to another meeting, I kept listening, and I never did hear that vision. I think there's a lot of things that we have to talk about, and when you put things as a number one, it just keeps you from from talking about those things. Now, you're not gonna get me to deny that something needs to be done at the preschool. It does. You know, I went in last year and had a long, long conversation with Ms. Davies to talk about my thoughts, my ideals on this, and of course, we differ. There is no doubt we differ. But we still have a responsibility in this Board of Education to do what's best for the entire district of Clark County. I mean, I think we've got to sit and discuss, you know, you're seeing an increased population at Schroeder Elementary. You're seeing an increased amount of building in this area up here. What is going to be our need for a new elementary school in the future? Something we have to look at. The Phoenix Academy, along with there. Great program, can be really good and beneficial to a few kids. Most of us on here have been through expulsion hearings. A couple of us haven't. Sometimes we forget about school safety. You know, we're talking about building a building back onto a campus where students were removed from. You know, guys, you know, doesn't seem like much now, but it can seem like a lot in the future. Budget cuts, maybe in the future. And like it or not like it, preschool full day, preschool half day, could be a major issue in a budget cut. You're probably looking at over $500,000 to run the preschool from a half a day to a full day. So I think there are so many things probably that this board, the people sitting here, will not be able to talk about. They'll have to be on different boards or whatever there. But I just think when you come in on a project and you tell the Board of Education that you cannot look at these other limitations that are going on in the district, that it really hampers some of the things that we need within our district. Now, maybe they're already decided that this is what they want to do. That's fine. I'm all right with that. But I still think there are bigger things out there on the table that we could look at. I'm not convinced that our current program of 5, 6, 7, 8 in high school is the best program for kids. I understand why we did it, when we did it, because we had to have the room, and that's why we did it. But is that the best thing for the students of Clark County? This board, some board, needs to talk about that. Now, maybe it all comes back around, and we say the preschool is still number one. But at least give your elected officials an opportunity to discuss those things.
Well, with my understanding of the discussion so far, we'll have that ability, the board will have that ability to discuss certain things, even if we do approve, if the board does decide to approve this. It could, I'm sorry. Randy. Like you said, was, you know, it could sit there if we don't act on it. And it's good for 4 years. So it does give the board time, if the board does decide to look at other things, before a final decision is made. But I think it would do injustice not to, at least for us to have this on the state board's agenda in December for them to consider.
Well, I know, again, I just feel like that what you're doing is you are taking the voice away from the individuals that were elected to make the decisions for the educational future of the students in Clark County. Yes, you can go back and do that, but why wouldn't it be easier now just to say to the committee, we'd like for you to look this over and to add these things to the number ones. And then that gives you an opportunity. You can't really discuss them if you don't have an ability. You can't talk about, you know, doing a 6th grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th middle school if there is no possibility in your plan of doing a 6th, 7th, and 8th. And maybe nobody wants to do it. Maybe, you know, has anybody sat down and looked at the data and where that puts us at? And does that put us behind? I think those are all things that we have to put into these things. And again, I'm not saying we're going to look at this and pull that off the table. And under no plan that I could see is that we don't see an improvement for what they have at the preschool. I think there has to be. I mean, there's lots of different things. You could get into plans for the rest of the night to talk about how you could. And I think every time, probably with the exception of when we did the athletic facility, the facility at the preschool improved. You know, we went from trailers, we went from curlers, we went to Hannah McClure. And we've improved each time on that with the space and the things that we've done. And I don't look for that to be any different on this time. Even though I won't be the ones making those decisions, that's going to come somewhere else. But I think that this board has to have the opportunity to sit down, have Mr. Christie, people like that come in and explain to us, what do you think about the 5th, 6th? Why should we go to a junior high? What is better? What are we missing? What are we gaining? You know, look at all those kind of things. What do we think about the Phoenix Academy? How is that going to work there? What's going to be the drawbacks? I know we put up a trial balloon several years ago about Phoenix Academy at RDC, and Mr. Christie tell you that was met with a lot of resistance from a lot of different people. And right now, when we're not seeing a lot of school threats or things like that, you don't hear much of that. But you will hear a lot of that when that cycle comes back. Those are all things that I think this board has to talk about. Again, I'm not out here trying to kill a project. I'm just saying that as elected officials, we should have the opportunity to sit and talk and make a great decision for this district, because we're probably going to look, I think they estimated 16 million. And if there anything like there used to be, we're probably looking at more like 17 and a half, Mr. Christie, would you say?
For what?
For the amount of bonding potential. They said 16 by July.
Yeah, well, we're 15 now, and so probably 16.
But it's probably going to be, it wouldn't surprise me to be 17 and a half if they've done anything like what they've done in the past. I mean, guys, look at some possibilities that could happen here. Could the preschool move into an existing building that we have right now and a new elementary be built? I think you can look at a lot of those type of things. Again, I'm not against things. Early childhood education, there's nobody in the world that's going to tell you it's not important. And you see the things that are here tonight, and these are individual parents come in, how their families were touched. And that's what the preschool is for. Unfortunately, the program itself doesn't hit every parent like what it hit here. And that's not to say we don't have people between those walls that are doing great jobs every day. But the preschool is a program that's been here since the early wars on poverty in 1963. And the program has never worked. And we talk about expanding the program. It's not a good thing when we have to keep getting more kids in to the preschool. The whole point of the preschool, the whole point of the war on poverty was to take people away from that. And what we're seeing here tonight, we're seeing a great school that's doing a good job to some parents. I mean, the statement that was made by Ms. Fitzgerald involved me in his education. That's the whole point of preschool. That's where it should be. And if this district could somehow get that preschool to get these parents, every parent involved like this, and make a difference, because that does make a difference how a kid starts to school. And when they started preschool, people talked about kindergarten, they talked about, then we got the 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds, and we just kept on getting them all down, and here we are almost 60 years later, and we're still throwing things into preschool. And not, again, it's a very, very important program that we have, and very beneficial. But does it outweigh the other needs that we have in this district? And I don't think it's right to take the voice away from our elected officials from doing that.
Well, in response, I'd like to say that I was elected for a 4-year term, which doesn't end until December. And much like my predecessor before me that voted on a district facility plan during the year before I would take office, I feel that certainly was his right, and I'd also like to represent my district by being able to move forward on this plan. I think I'd be open to discussion about the Phoenix Academy, whether it should be in the ones But I really think the need of this district and our families for the preschool, I don't want us to dilly-dally anymore on it. I want to see us move forward on it because, you know, I was lucky growing up. I had two parents and a good supportive family structure, but I was lucky, and not everybody has that. And I think we need to address those needs, and every month, every half year, every year that we put it off is hurting those children. And I'd like the opportunity to try to move forward on this next critical plan. I mean, it was, you know, it's left over from the old plan it was the second item, it was the next item up, and I think it still needs to be done. And it's something that's really critical for our children, and it's certainly frustrating that more progress hasn't been made in the last 50 years, but I think a lot of that is a function of what's going on in the family structure at home. But what we can do as a school district is do the best we can to try to address that and help our kids that need the most help. And so I fully support trying to move forward on the district facility plan as drafted, especially as putting the preschool as the number one priority. That's my perspective.
So let me just clarify. So if it gets approved from KDE and it's preschool, then you can't go and change it. And you can't decide, oh, well, maybe we need an elementary or you know, it's a preschool. That's what your money's for.
There is a process during your 4-year plan. You can do an amendment, which would, if your population changed or your circumstances changed, KD would let you go through an amendment process that involves reconvening the LPC, revisiting some of these issues, and then the LPC putting forth a revised plan for the board's consideration. So there is a process to change that within the 4-year district facility term.
But you have to also assume that KDE will support your request. Right now, you have 4 elementary schools that are considerably under-enrolled. And you would have to ask the Department of Education to support building a new elementary school considering that.
I was just saying, for instance, I mean, we haven't even looked at the numbers. We don't know, but I'm just asking, asking the question.
I think Randy answered that there is a process for revision.
They're under-enrolled, you know, basically because we did make that decision to go 5, 6. I mean, that's one of the reasons. I mean, that's, you know, it's unfortunate in school systems that the amount of money that you have drives your decision. And I would say that wasn't a bad decision. That was the best decision we could make at that time. What I'm saying is that I really think that you're at a time right now to where you can take a logical look and say, this is the way we want to be for the rest of time. Because after this 17 billion goes through, I'm not sure what else goes through. So I do believe that, you know, we should have an opportunity to speak about that. And I understand that everything Mr. Heisman said is right. I mean, you're not going to convince me anything about it's not right to do early childhood and the things that he talked about, and that's why it was put there, because everybody noticed that, you know, at one time that there were kids that were ready to go to school and there were kids that weren't ready to go to school. And preschool comes in to fulfill that role of getting those students ready to go to school. But we have lots of other things out there too that have a big impact on this district and what happens. I mean, there's a lot of big issues that are out there, but again, it's very difficult. And, you know, even in my discussions, you know, with Ms. Davis, who is as passionate as anybody about, you know, what she does, you know, it's just a different perspective. I do believe we have an opportunity to be able to sit and look, and I'm probably not going to change anybody's mind on here. I'm not there. I'm just saying that I just think as a Board of Education, we have a responsibility for everybody in this district, and we have a responsibility to get students coming out of high school that are as employable as possible. And is the current system we have right now, is our vision in line with that? I mean, again, the preschool is just a building. If this teacher that affected Ms. Fitzgerald is not there doing that, that building is not going to do that. It's the people within that building that make these things happen. And I'm not saying that a new building, there's not more programs. I know the cafeteria situation is awful. The situation they talk about with the restrooms is awful. You know, I mean, just go through, look at how beautiful our schools are, and then look at Hannah McClure. It's easy to say, I mean, but, you know, there are really things I think we need to talk about in this district.
And as facility director, I would feel responsible to also advise the board that given all the schools that we either renovated or rebuilt, preschool and Phoenix Academy are the two that have not experienced those. And considering the population of those two schools being children in poverty and children with disability and children at highest risk, I'd almost venture to say that the board is at high risk of being accused of discrimination, or the facility discrimination, against how you allocated your funds to the schools and have neglected those two.
I think we'd be hard pressed to say that. I mean, we go a full day, 5 days a week, and there's not many school systems around here.
I'm speaking of facility discrimination.
Well, you know, still what we do for those people right there. And, you know, and where we've got people are not great places, they're not dumps. You know.
I'd say Hannah McClure, you're getting very close.
Well, Hannah McClure has had its time, and that's what I'm saying. And I would never, ever go toward any plan that did not move those children somewhere else. But I'm just saying, not having the ability or not having the board the ability to do it, to not talk about a vision of where we want this district to go. I think all of those things feed into to a committee that we need to work on. But I understand, I agree with you on Hannah McClure. I really do.
My son was there not too long ago. I thought it was a great school.
Well, it is a great school.
It doesn't
But it
seem
has a
like
lot-
it's been that long ago.
It has a lot of hidden concerns, facility-wise.
Those ramps are not near as fun as they were when I was 10 years old.
No, I can imagine that.
And I understand, I understand Mr. Faraday's point, but I don't agree with it, I respectfully disagree with it. And with that said, I'd like to, unless there's other discussion, I'd like to move forward with a motion.
Can I say something real quick? Because I did sit on that facility committee, and I do think that we also need to keep in mind how many meetings did we end up having through COVID? I mean, we were shut down, brought back together, and that
It's been
still.
quite a process.
Yes, and it still managed to pass unanimously, all the way through the committee. So, I mean, to me, that said a lot, that everybody could come together this time and agree on that through that whole committee, to bring it in front of the board tonight. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
no.
I just wanted to make sure that that was said, that it did pass unanimously through the facility committee.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve local planning committee 4-year district facility plan as presented tonight.
I'll second that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we need to have a separate motion or an intertwined motion to approve or not approve a potential meeting on this Wednesday public meeting? Or is that something, that let's assume this passes, then can we have the ability to then bring that, if we have to have a discussion about it, we can bring that up as a separate item, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure we didn't have to intertwine it with this.
Okay. So motion by Mr. Talby, second by Ms. Ritchie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, did you vote?
I voted yes.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0. I'm sorry, Gordy and Rick, but I didn't hear you. Item number 3.
When you're beat, you're beat.
Well,
But it's not a bad, it's not a bad beat.
Can we go, is there any reason to not go ahead with the public meeting that's already been advertised on Wednesday?
You asking me?
I'm asking anybody who
Look
will
over that way.
answer. We already-
Yeah, you're looking at me. Are you asking me?
We
or
already
asking
made the
Brian?
ad, so you know me, I'm like, well, let's do it.
We've already talked to
Already
our
been advertised.
representatives. I think Randy has talked to them, and I know that Mr. Christie done it. We've done some research. We can have it on the
Okay,
14th.
I just want to make sure we addressed it all in the open, so that's still a go for Wednesday, so if people, the public, want to have further input, certainly on either side of this issue, that's their next opportunity to discuss it.
Wednesday at,
Is
think it's 5:30.
When is the meeting?
Wednesday, 5:30.
5:30.
And where is the meeting?
Here?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
Here. Here or the bigger room or wherever? Here? Okay.
Good question, Sherry.
Team effort.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Item number 30, discussion of return to school plans.
I sent you all an email, and I made you a hard copy of everything I sent on that. There was a couple things I wanted to point out to you, just wanted you to see where we kind of came from to where we are right now. Here, 3 weeks ago, we were only seeing our sped students in person, and through the discussions at the board meeting, you charged us with getting more students involved. That first week, we had 150 students we brought in. I think now, if you look now, this past week, 3 weeks later, we're at 1,665 been in the buildings in person. You can see a breakdown on that first sheet there, students receiving in-person instruction at school. We're now students, we're running our bus routes, and we're busing students in. If you'll look at the second page of it, students receiving in-person instruction at the schools, that's today only. If you look at that one, we have 566 students in buildings today. That's compared to 240 students last week, so we more than doubled that again. And we're still increasing that. As folks talked about here, bringing 4 and 5 students at a time into the classroom, we're seeing that all across the district.
Can I interrupt you a minute? How are these kids determined? Are they reaching out to the teachers calling the
Teachers, schools
students?
are reaching out to the parents. If the parents call in and ask for some help, need help, the principal then works with them to get them scheduled in. Teachers make those lists. Or she'll work with all our special ed students. She'll continue to do that.
But these are special ed and others?
These are
This
SPED
is
and
all
regular ed
students?
students
Okay.
across the board. And we're seeing more and more, and this is students that they may have a need in reading or some special area, but they may also need some additional help with a AP class. So it's a broad spectrum of students coming in. These are students that are, some of which, and if you look at that next sheet, you'll see how many are transported. Of that 566 that we had in today, we transported 250 of those. So you can see about 50%. That's holding up about what we do on a normal school time, about 50% that we transport, and about 50% of the students. Actually, in regular times, it's about 52% transported and 48% is bused or is brought in by parents. And we're about 50-50 now, pretty close to that. So they're still allowing parents to bring them in if they don't want them to ride the bus, or we provide transportation for those who need it. Those lists, the teachers and the building principals, they make those lists, they submit them to transportation. A few days in advance, we schedule the times, contact the parents and tell them exactly what time we're going to be picking the kids up. We're also bringing them in now. Those kids are coming in, they're being fed a breakfast, they're being fed lunch at the school. So that's allowed us to work on our protocols. Like Renee was talking about walking down the hall, 6 foot spacing, all those kinds of things. Bringing these kids in like we're doing now has given us an opportunity to work to see how we can more safely do this in the numbers. And as we've seen fit, we continue to increase the numbers. And that leads me into the next part of the plan that I want to talk to you about tonight. You see a draft, and I want to emphasize draft letter that will go out to the families. It's a 2-pager there. It's got information on multiple things. The first thing talks about the dates that we're presently planning to transition into a hybrid AB model. This is my recommendation to do this. This is kind of where I am right now. It's a hybrid AB model, instructional model, beginning on Friday, October the 30th. That would take the last survey that we did, all the students, parents who chose to remain virtual, we removed those from the group, and then all the others that chose the in-person, or any of those folks who did not reply, we put them in the in-person now. Once we're doing that, we're starting this conversation. We're finding those that didn't reply before are now making contact to the schools and determining whether they want to be in-person or hybrid, or virtual. So we divided that up at each school. We went through every building. You got that last week. We went through the buildings. We determined by calculation, and we're going back now and we're refining that, because the calculations, the formula that they use is it provides for a little bit more than 6 feet of space. So we're going back and actually measuring out the rooms, spacing the seats, working with the staff at the buildings, principals at the buildings, and actually setting seats or marks on the floor where students would be sitting. And we're finding that our original calculation, we were a little bit light on what we could actually put in there, so we're able to put a few more than what we thought. So after we divided them up, Winburn went through and we did this by household. We didn't go the alphabet or north-south or east-west or anything like that, we kind of went by household. That's how we could best divide the students up. We've done that. The principals now have in their possession, they have the list of the students that have been selected by the campus system that we use. It's on the A group, and they have also the B group. So they know how many they have of those. You have it there. When you look back past that letter, you'll see the blended groups. That tells you that each school, how many at each school chose to remain on distance learning, and how many students would be on the hybrid A plan, and how many would be in the hybrid B group. Broken down by school that way. As we're meeting with principals, I met with an elementary principal today. We've resolved some of the issues. We've not put the list out to parents yet. That's what this letter is going to be about in the next few days. We're going to put those names out on the 20th, so that parents have at least 10 days prior to start back to school. If there's some reason why they might need to change from an A group to a B group, there could be many reasons. One being maybe if a family has 3 children and 2 of them are older kids, and they may be dependent on those older children for daycare, for the younger one, then they may need those 2 older ones on different days. So at least one of them home all the time with the young child. So there's reasons. There's a form also in there that you see that people can fill out if they want to make an application to change the learning platform. We're finding so far that the buildings, the rooms will hold the students that each of these divided up. They're under the capacity of the building, and so we're still working through those to ensure that if there are any rooms, working with principals in case they have to move a room for one period a day or something, because like Renee talked about, one of her classes may have one more student than her room would actually hold. We'll get out to your room, remeasure, recalculate, make sure. But if that happens, then the principal's aware of that, and they can make arrangements for somebody to move the classroom that 1 hour and go to a larger classroom if they need to do that. But this does allow for anyone who chooses to come back to in-person learning to be able to do that. And it's 2 days a week, and the other 3 days will be virtual. So the building principals are also working on the plan that we'll come back to you next week with plans for the buildings on how they're going to address the schedule inside the buildings. They're working on those plans. I made this decision. I stand strongly and firmly on this right now. I've looked at what information Ms. Kissick presented. We've looked at that now for some month and a half with our COVID task force group. One of the criteria they set forth was to come back to full in-person learning, was that we go 3 weeks with a declining, on that back page, the incident rate, a declining rate over a 7-day rolling average. We're not declining, we're still increasing right now. So at this point, it's my belief, now is not the right time to bring all our students back into the schools at one time. I think we can do this hybrid, we can work into it, we're gradually working into it now. We're going to be getting close, in some of these schools, close to the numbers that they're going to be seeing during that hybrid anyway. I think by the end of the week, we'll be even closer to those numbers, especially the time we roll around another week after this week. We're going to be close to seeing those numbers already in the field. I've said all along, I realize that I certainly respect your input and value your input. However, it comes down, it is my decision, it's been mentioned several times, it is my call to make, and I'm the one that has to go home tonight and lay down, worry about staff, students, and in school. I watched all the schools around us come back in person in the last less than a week, and then they have to go virtual. I've seen that in too many places. I know some schools today even have cases on the rise inside the schools of kids. I don't want that. There's a reason why we're yellow on that map. We've done things right here, and some of the places around us haven't. And when we start to do things the way they're doing things around us, we won't be yellow anymore either. And I don't know if it's going to be a challenge to stay probably yellow as it is. That's my feeling right now. I would say that we will come back in the virtual, in the hybrid AV. However, as we get closer to that time, if the numbers still continue to rise, I have to look at staffing. Okay, on transportation right now, we have 3 bus drivers, substitute bus drivers. We have 48 routes, we have 51 drivers. And right now I have a driver, I have 2 drivers that's not able to work right now. They're either in isolation or quarantine. So now I have 1 sub. And any day, we find ourselves in a problem with staffing, whether it be buses. I'm close in buses. We only have 55 substitute teachers that said they would be willing to come into the schools under these conditions and work. We have more than that on average absent every day. In the normal conditions, we have more teachers than that night in place. So I need 55 teachers, 55 subs on a normal day without COVID. So I have to worry about that too. So as we move closer, we'll continue to monitor this. The task force is going to stay together. We're going to continue to look at things and work with the principals and do this as safely as we can see fit to do it. Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
I'll just make a couple of comments. I'm on the task force committee as well. We've met 2 times since our last board meeting. And it's evident that, counties that have went all in person 2 weeks later are in the red that we've seen, especially in the southern part of our state. We also, like what Mr. Christie said, we're having an increasing, could have an increasing issues with teachers, transportation. There's a lot of variables that need to be considered. I'm in favor, I'm not a hybrid model fan. I've said that in the past. And I believe several members of the committee is not a hybrid fan as well. But with that said, it is probably the best step forward that we can take to try to get kids back in school. The challenge I see from our committee, and it's not, from discussions in our committee, is the instruction to the students and an AV model that the administrators are going to have to work with the teachers to make sure that everyone's getting the same education, whether it's virtual, in person. When they're in person, the virtual class is getting the same instruction that's virtual. So, that's going to be, up to the administrators. I like to see, what they plan on doing it before the 30th. But I'm fully supportive of what you presented, based upon we feel like we do need to get back. This is the best solution. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. If majority of the committee would have probably voted to stay virtual, but everyone understands that we do need to try to get students back in. It's important to get them back in, and this is the safest route for now, in my opinion.
Yes, Justin, they can. Yeah.
Mr. Christie, on your chart, so the always distance learning, the 1,118, I guess, that looks like that would represent 22% of all of the students. So then the converse is 78% is assumed want to come back?
Yes, we went with that number, but of that 78%, not all of them submitted responses. However, to balance this out and plan for this plan, we put them all in there, assuming they would. Now, we're in the process, and we'll continue. Once these names and the all call and the email goes out to the parents listing where their student is, there may be some at that point based on numbers of COVID cases in the community, or other reasons may choose to come out of the in-person and go virtual, as there could be. We're encouraging when you go to the virtual side that we need. That's going to be for the 9-week commitment, the remainder of the 9-week commitment at that point. And anyone who comes in person, if things change and there becomes an issue, they'll have that form. They'll have the ability to move from the in-person to go virtual. And that's not to say that we wouldn't work with someone that was on the virtual that wanted to come in. Things might change. And I'm hopeful that, we can do this and maybe sooner than the end of the 9 weeks, we can move into another phase of it and get to a better place.
Well, can we take that off the table then?
Take what off?
The second 9 weeks? Because I think that got us. This statement that you have here on this letter that's going out to the parents, to remain in that platform until the end of the second 9 weeks.
Well, with the virtual, that's what we want to happen. What can happen is, if we have to maintain the 6-foot distance, and then all of a sudden, everybody wants to come off the virtual and come back in, then now we have a problem. We can't maintain our 6-foot spacing, so that's why we were saying to pick one and go with that. And we looked at the plans from a lot of the other districts around, and that's pretty much what everybody, once you choose the virtual, is for a period of time. We're just saying the end of that 9 weeks. Now, I'm hopeful that I wouldn't ever rule that there may be a possibility that things could improve, and maybe we can come back to everybody come back, broken back up, and instead of 2 days, maybe go more days.
That'd be a little bit difficult on high schools and junior high. The people coming back from virtual to coming back into class, I think you're right in saying that once you choose that, you have to. I just don't see how the people that are making schedules at the high school or at the junior high could accept kids coming in. Now, if kids had to leave because of a family situation or something like that, that really doesn't have that effect. That can be easily done within departments or anything else if someone had it there. But it would be a nightmare for counselors if you allow virtual to all of a sudden say, well, we got homecoming coming up, I want to go back to school.
Come this week and then go back.
So I would agree with that, being able to do that. I think that needs to be probably even harder to put in there. But once you choose that, that's what you've chosen for that time, the virtual part of it. I believe. I just, Mr. Christie, I'm just going to harp again on this communication thing again. I'm probably not unlike other board members that get emails from teachers. We get emails from parents. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to tell them other than to call their schools. I mean, are our schools communicating with these parents and letting these parents know this is what we're going to do, or we've just been waiting for this to come out? And I'll be honest with you, I actually had a parent email me yesterday that told me that we were going back to the hybrid model on the 30th, and I'm like, I don't know that. I mean, that's the first I've heard that. And things like that, whatever we go back in, I want to work with everybody going back in. Guys, we got to have everybody on the same page. A teacher email me and tell me that they're put in a dangerous situation. That doesn't mean anything because I don't know what their situation is. They need to talk to the principal or the superintendent because that's where the plan is developed at. And for parents to say, well, I talked to the teacher and the teacher told me they didn't know what the plan was. Well, that's a little disheartening when you do that. So